Welcome to Your Story Doesn't End Here, the mental health podcast for military and veterans. I'm your host, Rachel, and my mission with this podcast is to be a voice for those who don't have a voice, bring awareness to mental health issues, and provide value and solutions to help make life more abundant. Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming back this week. This is part 4 of 5 of this incredible story, Aneda's 12-year journey through her time in the Navy. If you haven't listened to parts 1 through 3, you'll want to check those out before you listen to today's episode. It's all one long story, so for it to make sense, you have to listen to it chronologically. And for those of you who have listened to this point, thank you so much for supporting and listening in, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
So the Chiefs actually took it all the way up to the Admiral's CMC. Since I was at a Flagstaff command, we were under an Admiral, and I didn't find out that he knew until much later. But the whole thing was dropped. About me dating a chief. Though, since he was the watchbell coordinator, I had to, we couldn't stand watches together. And eventually they ended up taking me off of being assistant watchbell coordinator. And I couldn't go in his spaces at all. I had to just basically just stay away from him. But it's not like we had a public relationship anyways. But, eventually, like a few weeks after it was found out, I had paid to go to a concert with him. And at the concert, he got drunk and he started yelling at me, and he was making a scene, like a huge scene at the end of the concert. And we were supposed to go to the after party. And right then and there, I was like, you know what? Because I didn't know what to do. He's yelling at me. I did not know what to do. I was like, you know what, maybe we shouldn't be together. And then it's like he wanted that, because right off the bat, he's like, yeah, I feel like that's best. And he broke up with me. And he actually left me at the hotel and had his friend come and pick him up. And at first I was really, really heartbroken, of course, and I called my dad at the hotel, like I was crying. I didn't mean to FaceTime him, but I had FaceTiming my dad and crying and stuff like that. And, looking back, my relationship with him was very toxic, and it was very abusive, not physically abusive, but like mentally and verbally abusive. And it got to where my dad was just like, you're better off without him. Like what my dad said was, he's like, you're not fat, you're not ugly, you don't have a bad personality. He's like, you should never, ever have to beg somebody to be with you. And me actually went back to try to talk to him one more time a few weeks later. And the only thing he kept saying was like, oh, you're not going to change. He didn't see anything that he did. Nothing. It was all me. And finally I was just like, well, you know what? I hope you have a nice night. And then I left, and that was the last time I spoke to him. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. That was it. And so I was about to transfer anyways. And so what ended up happening was I got orders to Whidbey Island, great old Whidbey Island. Everybody wants to come here. I was getting ready to get all my stuff situated to come cross country. But then I also, I went up for Junior Sailor of the Year. And mind you, I went up against all guys, and they were all EP sailors. And when the CO and the CMC and the XO, they all came in our space, the last thing I thought they said they were going to say was like, I won. Everybody's jaw, when they told me I won, like everybody's jaw dropped. Everybody. Nobody wanted me to win Sailor of the Year. None of my chiefs did. Nobody, And So I won it, and I was turning over all my stuff. So when I went to go do turnover with the Admiral CMC, and for president of the JA, my master chief was also a former CTT. And when we were doing it, in the middle of it, he stopped me and asked me, he's like, so what is this I hear about you not re-enlisting? And that's when I knew, like, he knew about the chief, because I was thinking of getting out for this chief. And thankfully I didn't, but also I felt like him breaking up with me, just because it was so weird. I felt like part of it was forced by the all the khakis, because I was getting out for him. And but I told Master Chief, I was like, no, I'm not getting out. I'm re-enlisting, blah, 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 blah. And I did end up re-enlisting. I had my mentor re-enlist me. He's a civilian, so everybody thought it was weird, because he like memorized the swear and everything. And I had him re-enlist me. Nobody, like maybe one person, came from my department to my re-enlistment, and it was in the same building. Nobody came. Yeah. And that's, I didn't get a like, when I left, I didn't get a reel like everybody else did with signatures. I didn't get anything, no plaque, no nothing. I got nothing from them. And but it's neither here nor there. But I got I got one NAM, even though I was supposed to get two, because one was supposed to be for Sailor of the Year, the other one was supposed to be for end of tour, but they only gave me one. They wouldn't give me two. He said it was because since Sailor of the Year was so close to me transferring, that per the instruction, they only had to give me one, even though everybody else I've seen they got two. So it was whatever. And but they also, like, I was pulled to the side and told too, they're like, make sure you do not check out on the same day as this girl, the one that was like really fucking mean to me. They're like, do not check out on the same day as her. They're like, check out after she leaves. Do not check out the same day. And I didn't understand that, but the reason why they did that was because since she was already the EP Sailor, even though she didn't fucking do shit, but since she was already she already had an EP. If we would have checked out the same time, I wouldn't have been able to get the EP, because I would have been one of two and she had the EP. And so they really, really helped me out on that. Not my chiefs, it was my LPO, but who thankfully he's a chief now. He's awesome. But it was leaving that command, like it was a huge relief because of how shitty I was treated. And, so next I was going to Whidbey Island, Washington. And I checked in to Whidbey Island, Washington, February 1st, 2019. And when I checked in, my CMC, one of the first things he said was that I was during my my career counseling board, counselor career board. What is that called?
CDB. Is it the CDB?
Yeah, my CDB, career development board. I don't know.
So.
Whatever it stands for. CDB. One of the things that he said during my CDB was that I was still recovering from my last NJP, which blew my mind. Yeah, because my last NJP was in 2014, and it's not even on my record. Yeah, that's what he told me when I checked in. I had asked if there was any way that I would be able to put in my package, because I had just won Sailor of the Year and Junior Sailor of the Year. And they told me when I checked in, they're like, no, they're like, you start over now. They're like, whatever you did in your past, it does not matter. It only matters right now. And you're starting from the bottom. That's what I was told by my LPO, who is now a chief. and he's a fucking shitbag, terrible person. You'll hear more about him. He's like, he loves gossip and shit like that, but that's what he told me. And he also told me, because I ended up getting like one of the girls that I checked in with, her name is, I'm not gonna say her name, but she's a go-getter. And he's like, well, if you want to stand out like her, you should be coming in early, and you should be doing that, and you should be doing this. And I was like, excuse me? I was like, I don't fucking do anything while I'm in port. Like, while I'm here, I don't do anything. Like, there's nothing for me to do. So it was just right off the bat, it was very, very frustrating. But what also happened was they would treat people like shit. And this one guy, the CTM 2, they treated him like shit. And I saw it, and I felt bad for him. And so I was nice to him. So I started talking to him. And if he did something, I would go and talk to him and be like, hey, you should, try this, you should try that, different tactics, and, and just trying to kind of be a peer mentor. And then he started texting me. I didn't give him my number. He started texting me. And after the weekend, in front of everybody, I said something about him texting me and that I didn't give him my number. And you would think that like people would say something to him, and they didn't. Nobody cared. Actually, my LPO made a nickname for me. My 2 LPOs, they made a nickname for me and called me K2, because they said that me and him were perfect for each other. And this is what they would do. They would egg it on all the fucking time. And so then it went from him texting me to randomly calling me. And he would talk to me at work about how he thought lesbians and gays were going to go to hell and all this other shit. And it was against the Bible. And which I told him, I was like, whatever your view is, you keep that to yourself. That's personal. I don't have a problem with it. You don't choose who you love. As long as it's not bothering me, I don't fucking care. I don't care what you do. And he would just say stuff that was very inappropriate all the time. And he started randomly calling me. And one day he texted me and asked me if I wanted to go salsa dancing with him. I was like, no, I don't want to go salsa dancing with you. I'm at a friend's house. Thank you for the offer. Again, still trying to be nice. And but it just escalated. And so at work, I was becoming a CFL. And it seemed like he didn't like that at all. But I was still waiting for my request chit to be routed, so to get my designation letter. And I was helping MWR, and then he would do stuff where he'd say he was going to come help, and then he wouldn't show up. And I told him, I was like, when you make an obligation, something like that, you need to follow that. And he's like, well, this is just voluntary. I was like, it doesn't matter. You're writing it on your eval, right? He's like, yes. I was like, all right. So that means you come on time, no excuses. And so things just, he wasn't stopping it, because it got to where he called me once, because I think it was because of that or another situation. And he called me and he said he wanted to apologize or something like that. And I asked him, I was like, to stop calling me and stop texting me unless it was something work related. I was like, we're not friends like that, And I was like, I didn't even give you my number in the first place. And so one day I was looking up the instruction, because every command I go to, every command I've been to, the CFL programs run differently. So I'm at the computer, but I'm also looking at my own stuff, because I was having a lot of issues at the time with waking up in pain. And suicide note, because of me having sexual traumas, I didn't know that sexual traumas, if you're a female, can really affect your reproductive system. It can affect your physical health as well. And that's what was happening. And I was waking up in really bad, excruciating pain. And it would happen like 3-4 days in a row, the same time every day. And I would wake up, and the first time it happened, I was like, oh, maybe I need a drink. Maybe I need to go to the bathroom or something. But as soon as I got up, I thought I was going to pass out. And I like laid there in a ball and just waited until the pain went away. And so I didn't do anything. I didn't say anything about it. Like, I said something about it at work, and the guys were like, well, you need to make an appointment. So I made an appointment. And this is like a side story because I made an appointment, and I had an internal ultrasound, which is my second internal ultrasound because I had one in the DC area as well. And at that time it was with a female, and this time it was with a male. And I don't know why, like, okay, never mind. I'm not going to say that because that's putting it all on me, but I didn't think of anything when there was no female in the area or in the room when this happened. But while he was doing the internal ultrasound, he was also feeling me up with his thumb. And my lady, my no-no box, my no-no square. And it bothered me a lot. And I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything at all.
Was that like a military base, or was this like a civilian?
This is at Oak Harbor Medical base. Yes.
Wow.
Which he'll come up again. But I didn't say anything. And what they end up doing, because I was in flight medicine fucking sucks. Flight medical. And what they end up doing, the doc, he's like, well, your ultrasound, you have a small cyst, but he's like, it's normal size, doesn't matter. I'm going to give you Flexerol. And if you start feeling that pain again, just take a Flexerol. And I was kind of like, really? Because I had told him that it hurts so bad, I have to lay there until it stops because I can't get up because I feel like I'm going to pass out from pain. The first time it happened, I was about to call the cops. I was about to call the ambulance because I thought like something was wrong. Something was very wrong. So I was looking at my medical stuff, but also I was reading the instruction, the Navy our command instruction for CFL. And I was looking, and all of a sudden I look over, and Court is fucking looking at my computer. And I was like, excuse me. But he was looking at my computer, and I was like, excuse me. I was like, can you keep your like eyes on your own shit? And he's like, well, he was like, if you have any questions or anything about this, he's like, let me know. I was like, I don't need your help. I was like, if I want, I was like, mind your own business. Keep your eyes on your own computer. And all of a sudden, he comes over and he printed me off the instruction and hands it to me. And I flip. I was like, I said I didn't need your fucking help. And I yelled this in front of everybody in the middle of the space. I was like, I don't need your fucking help. I didn't ask for any of your fucking help. I was like, I'm reading the fucking instruction for myself. If I asked you for help, then I would understand you fucking printing me off stuff, but mind your own fucking business and leave me the fuck alone. I was like, leave me alone. And I was so mad that like one of the first classes, my LPO, who was one of the ones that would call me K2, he comes and he's like, let's go smoke. And I was like, okay, so we go smoke. And he just told me I needed to calm down. And so I did, but that did not get any better. So, it got worse. Everything got worse. So after I flipped on him, I just kept my distance. Didn't say anything, didn't do anything, kept my distance from him. And the one day, so we have a CFL meeting, And we're going through stuff. Mind you, I don't have my designation letter yet, but I've been a CFL prior. And at the time we had like maybe 4 CFLs. We didn't have that. We have a lot more now. But they were asking if anybody wanted to take take the lead and make a roster, like an Excel spreadsheet and stuff. And nobody volunteered. I waited. Nobody volunteered. And so I made one because I volunteered and I was like, I'll do it. And Corn got mad. He's like, doesn't even have her designation letter. And I was like, I didn't hear you volunteer. And then the CFO was like, yeah, he's like, she's the only one that volunteered, so she can do it. She should make an Excel sheet. So the next day I'm working on this Excel sheet, and comes around and he's like, I think we should do it this way, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no. I was like, I don't think you understand. Like, I am making this. I didn't ask for your help. I am making it. Leave me alone. So he goes away and then he comes back again. And he says something and goes to like hand me papers because he's like, I think we should do it this way. I was like, again, leave me alone. And mind you, I had also gone and told my LPO, the one who's a chief now, that I was like, can you tell him to leave me alone? Nothing happened. So this time I tell him to leave me alone again, go tell my LPO again, nothing happened. So then he comes up, walks to me, says something really quick and walks away. I was like, come here. And then he goes to say something. And I was like, if you're going to come and you're going to try to tell me what to do, at least have the balls to fucking say it to my face. I told you to leave me the fuck alone. I know what I'm doing. I don't need your help. Leave me the fuck alone. And I went and told my LPO again. Mind you, nothing came of it. All they did was tell him, finally, they're like, leave her alone. Just don't bother her, leave her alone. So the next day I go get my stuff on my puka. My stuff's not there. My stuff is gone. And I end up finding out, I go and ask around, end up finding out that after they told him to leave me alone and that he wasn't to bother me or anything, he went and decided that he was going to take over my puka. And somebody told me too, they're like, I told him to leave it alone and he didn't listen.
What's a puka?
So it's like a cabinet. It's a cabinet above, like, that's what they call it. I don't know why they call it that, but it's a cabinet in front, above, like the cubicle areas. That's what a puka is.
Okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And so, so I got mad and I can't remember who I went and talked to, but, I told them, about what he did. And so then the next thing they told him was they ended up telling him, they're like, we're serious now, like leave her the fuck alone, don't touch her shit, don't say anything to her, nothing. He didn't listen, of course. And mind you, at the time I was about to go to mass for something else. I think it was gun decking his watch call and just a bunch of stuff. He was going mass. So one day I went to go to the gym, and my personal gym, and I go to my gym, and as soon as I walk in, he's sitting there because they sell like a food, like a hot something bowl, some fruit bowl. And I see him. I don't say anything to him. I walk straight to the to the locker room like I usually do. I freak out a little bit, but I'm like, it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. You know, try not to, get myself all riled up. I go to the squat machine or the squat rack. And as soon as I get out there, he turns his seat and he sits there and he watches me. And he watches me for about 30 minutes. And one of the main reasons, and I've said this before, one of the main reasons why I pay for my own gym is because I've had people leave notes on my car. I've had people follow me out. So I switch all my gym schedules and people would follow me out at night. I just pay for my own gym. I never go at this. I try not to go at the same time every day. And I freaked out. So as soon as he left, I went, grabbed my stuff from the locker room and I left and I freaked out. And I was crying. I put up a post on Facebook about how, why I go to my own personal gym and that I had asked my command, talked to my LPOs tons of times about this guy harassing me and this guy messaging me and calling me and not leaving me alone and nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden I get a message from my LPO, the one who's the chief. And he's senior wants to talk to you. Is that fine if senior talks to you, calls you, and that I need to take my Facebook post down because it doesn't it doesn't need to be up there. And so so I talked to senior calls and he asked me if I'm all right. And I'm freaking out. And I'm just really stressing out because this guy will not leave me alone. And then chief or senior asked me if I'm going to be coming into work the next day. And I'm like, well, I have a medical appointment in the morning, but I'll be in afterwards. I was like, why? And he's like, well, he requested you to be there to speak on his behalf. I was like, what? What? So honestly, I feel like one of the reasons why he showed up at my gym, I personally feel like it was also an intimidation factor. He was trying to intimidate me. And oh boy, God, did he get me. Because I was stressed to the max. And so I go in the next day and I end up telling that one friend that I ended up telling her about what he said about gays and lesbians going to hell. And she's a lesbian. She's married to a woman. And she took it to heart, even though he didn't say it to her. So she turned it in. Her right, And so when I go in, they ask me about that stuff. And they asked me about all this other stuff about him. And it's not if he wanted me to speak on his behalf for the good, I did the exact opposite. I did not. There was no good. But the one thing that they did do was before we went in, the CO came out and he's like, I just want to let you guys know right now, this is not about any harassment. This is not about stalking or anything. This is just clearly, these are the charges that we're going to keep for another day. So they were separating his charges. And so after all of that, the XO calls me in and the XO is like, oh, I forgot actually before, rewind. So I actually, after he kept coming to me about when he kept coming to me and then he moved my stuff from the puka, my simio came up to me, not as a simio. He came up to me as a first class and he's like, hey, I heard about what's going on. He's like, I'm the simio and what's going on is not all right. And personally, he's like, I feel like something needs to be done. He's like, if you want to make an unrestricted report, we can make an unrestricted report, which I chose to make an unrestricted or a restricted report, restricted report. So that way nobody got in trouble, but everything was documented. I made a restricted report. And then they moved him out to, I don't know what they call it, the RO. They call it like, it's a gidunk. That's what we call it, gidunk on the ship. So he was working at it at the gidunk. So comes this time, fast back forward to the XO. XO calls me in, and XO asks me if I want to put a military protective order against him. And I was like, I don't know what that means. What's that mean? And I was like, I don't know what that means. What is an MPO? And he had to explain it to me. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I felt bad. Honestly, I felt genuinely bad that I was getting him in trouble. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. And I was like, would you suggest it? And he's like, if it makes you feel better, and it can give you some kind of peace of mind. Yes. And so I put in a military protective order. The CO, because we were doing PRTs. So the CO comes to me and he gives me the paperwork for the military protective order, like straight up by himself, personally. And he's like, he tells me, he's like, I've given him the paperwork. He has signed it. I've explained everything. And if you have any issues, come back and tell me. So I'm like, thank you, sir. And I go to the gym to do the PRT. Tell me why this fucking guy walks up to us while we're doing the PRT, knowing that I'm there, looking at me, not even caring. He didn't give two shits. He did not care. So the next day I went and told them. And it sucked. The one thing that sucked was since he was working in the Gidonk, nobody knew the real story, what was happening. So then I ended up making an unrestricted report. And when I made the unrestricted report, they talked to everybody about getting people's numbers off the roster and how it was illegal and all this other stuff. And then people would come up to me and they're like, are you the one that got that somebody stole the number from? They're like, we've talked to all the other single females. So you're the last one. So it has to be you. And so I got ostracized a lot. Nobody wanted to talk to me because they thought I was going to turn them in. And there ended up becoming there was an investigation, obviously, on what happened. Well, like 10 other females came forward with how he would harass them. He showed up to their barracks rooms. He all these girls came forward and every single one of them tried to make a report to a higher up, but it was always swept under the rug every single time. And even girls from our own commands, he would harass and nobody did anything. Nobody fucking cared. Nobody. That LPO that's a chief now, piece of fucking shit. Because he said that he was trying to say that he didn't know about what was going on and blah, 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 blah. And came up to me and was telling me that I shouldn't put stuff on my Facebook about it because the Navy was handling it. And I was like, first off, you don't tell me what to put on my Facebook. Second off, the only reason why you don't want me to put stuff on Facebook is because you know that you were not handling it. He's like, well, we're handling it now. I was like, yeah. And what did I have to do to get it handled? How many other fucking girls have come and tried to say something to you, but you don't fucking care. You don't give a fuck. Don't tell me what to put on my Facebook and what not to put on my Facebook. No. And I got really mad because he didn't care. He did not fucking care. And so it sucked because Trump was out there at the Gidonk and everybody went there to get food, snacks and stuff. And he would tell his story that I was just acting crazy, and that he didn't say anything that he did. Nothing. And so I ended up having to like, there was three times total that he did not follow the military protective order. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they come to me and they're like, hey, get your stuff ready. Because so they were at first holding off sending me on debt because I was going to go to Mexico to visit my grandma. But then my grandma got sick and she had to get a pacemaker. And so my dad went to Mexico early. And so he wasn't going in June like we had planned. And I told them. And so all of a sudden they had decided, they're like, we're going to send you all on deployment. They're like, you have 15 days to get ready. And I was like, or no, first they said 10 days. They're like, you have 10 days to get ready. You're going on deployment. And I was like, didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden they came back and they're like, all right, so you don't have 10 days. They're like, we got you 15 instead. And then they came back the next day and they're like, my senior chief pulled me aside and he's like, all right, so I have a question for you. He's like, would you rather go to Greece instead of Japan? I was like, is that even a question? I was like, of course I'll go to Greece. Like, no, pull my leg. No. So they sent me to Greece. And I really felt like they threw me out on deployment so that I wasn't there. But the CO gave me updates all the time. Like, I have anxiety really bad, especially because of my past NJPs. So anytime they're like, hey, the CO wants you to call, I would freak out. I freak out. And even though I knew it wasn't anything bad, he just wanted to give me updates. But I genuinely felt bad for him because the CO ended up making the decision, because he's like, so they came back and they found that he's guilty. They're like, but he's appealing it. And the CEO's like, so just in case there's a chance that he wins, and then you have to come back to him being here, I'm going to put in my own report against him. And I've heard from somebody else that talked about how the CEO took that so hard, because this guy was the first guy he'd ever kicked out of the Navy. And it's got to be like, I felt bad. I had nightmares for a long time after I reported him. And I would talk to my Samuel about it, because I was like, I feel bad because I feel like I'm messing up somebody else's career. I feel like I'm ruining somebody else's career. And my Samuel, like, he is like, he did it to himself. You have nothing to feel bad about. And but like that, it really put me back in my paranoia, where I would like, I was just, thankfully they did send me on deployment because I didn't have to deal with that stuff. But then I'm out on deployment and my grandpa got sick. My grandpa was 88. And he got really sick, and my dad kept calling me to tell me that like they put him on air and stuff like that. And every time my dad would give me update, I would call my LPO and I would tell my LPO. So one day my dad said my grandpa was getting worse. I called my LPO and my LPO wasn't there. So I talked to my LCPO. My LPO never told my LCPO what was going on with my grandpa. He said he did, but he never told him anything. They didn't know anything about my grandpa getting sick. And I feel so bad for this, but my dad, like, so he messaged me and he's like, your grandpa's doing really good. We're taking him home. We're putting him, he's on oxygen still, but he's doing good. And then next day he's like, so we had to take him back to the hospital. It took a turn for the worst. And then I remember waking up to a message from my dad, And he said he's dead. And I put my phone back down and I went back to bed. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. I just nothing. And we had the day off, thankfully, at work. And I called my dad a little bit later, and my dad was with my grandma, and they were picking on his casket because he was sick for so long, and it was on and off. And my grandma was a year younger than him. They didn't want to keep it prolonging everything, so they buried him the next day. And so I had called my chief, and I told my chief that my grandpa passed away. And my chief said that he would talk to my department head and everything like that. And my OIC at the time, amazing OIC, BD or DB. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember him.
Awesome. We got him fucked up for his birthday. Awesome OIC. But he's like, I don't need you here, because they didn't. At the time they were switching over our software and stuff. And so I didn't have any analysis to do. And so basically I was just transferring data. That was it. That's all I was doing. And he's like, honestly, he's like, you can show the CTR or the CTM how to do your job, because CTM didn't do shit. And we can send you back to the States, and that way you can catch a flight to Mexico. And he's like, I'll talk to my CO on my end and, see what we could do. Well, I ended up getting a message from the Intello, and or I don't even think it was Intello. I can't remember who it was, but they said that my fucking department head, she is a piece of work. She was a huge piece of work. She said, she said that you could go back home to Mexico as long as you had a Red Cross message, which I couldn't because my grandpa is in Mexico. They're like, as long as you can get a Red Cross message, but you would also have to pay for your own round trip ticket from Greece to Mexico, and you will only get 2 weeks. And she wanted me to make sure that you knew that if you went, you would not be getting per diem. Like, why would you even fucking add that? That's the last thing on my fucking mind is getting per diem. But also, $7,000 ticket. You think I can afford a fucking $7,000 ticket? Like, just tell me no. But they also did not get back to me until like 2-3 days after my grandpa was buried. They didn't get back to me at all. And so OIC ended up I felt really bad because the day of my grandpa's burial, I called my dad, and they did an old burial where they took turns carrying his casket to the graveyard. And they carried his casket to his graveyard. All my uncles and my cousins took turns. And after that, I didn't talk to my dad for 2 weeks. I fell into a really bad depression. Our OIC switched over, but I would mainly stay in my room and drink. And one night we were having a barbecue, and I got fucked up. I got really fucked up. I don't remember what happened. All I know is I woke up with scrapes and bruises and shit. And I got called into the office the next day. And so I go in, and I do not remember what her name was, but we had a female OIC, and BD or DB, he briefed her on what was going on, and her and Intello, Baby G, they spoke to me, and they're like, we know that you're going through some stuff. They're like, but you need to talk to somebody. They're like, we're going to let things slide right now because we know you're going through some stuff, but you need to talk to somebody, because they're like, what you did last or the other night was not acceptable, and we don't want to have anything happen. And so so I talked to my dad. I started calling my dad again. I talked to my dad, and I felt bad, and I apologized to him. But my dad, thankfully, is a very understanding person. And he's like, I knew you were going to call when it was time. He's like, you know, he's like, I know that you need your own time. And so thankfully, I'm really, really thankful for the OIC and the Intelo at that time, because, you know how like we were talking earlier, and I was like, I wish somebody would say something to me. I wish somebody would talk to me. And I'm glad that they did. I'm very thankful that they actually took the time to actually talk to me. And, but I fucking hate my department head. She's a piece of shit. There's more stories about her because, so I came back. So they ended up switching the schedule. And mind you, I was in Greece for 6 months. And I was being told to that I needed to pick out a holiday leave period. And because when we were coming back, it was right after Halloween. And or no, it was in November. And so we were going to get home just on time for the holidays. And so I messaged my chief, and I was like, you know, I was just seeing what holidays I would be able to take. He's like, don't even worry about the holiday periods. He's like, take as much leave as you need because you're going right back out. And I was like, it didn't click in my head. I was like, okay. And so when I got back, I realized what he meant, because I was leaving for deployment like in January. And so I go to put in my leave, and I was trying to take 2 weeks of leave. I was trying to take Christmas and New Year's. And they told me I couldn't. They're like, no, you can only take one leave period. And I was like, excuse me, what? And they're like, you can only take one leave period. I was like, well, chief told me when I was out in debt that I could take any leave period I wanted because I'm going right back out on debt. And they're like, that's not happening. And I was like, all right, well, you either let me take both leave periods or I will go and write an EO report because of what you guys are doing. I was gone for 6 months, and I'm only being home for a month and a half, not even a month and a half. And I'm going right back out. I was like, you either accept my leave period or I will go talk to the CMO. And the next day they told me to write my special request sheet and that I could take my leave periods. Fucking assholes. Like, why? Why do you gotta be a fucking asshole? And so I go home on leave, you know, back home to Iowa, and then I come back and I leave for Bahrain, where we met. And like, I feel like when we left, and then we came back to a different world, you know, because COVID ended up happening while we were out there. And we left to Bahrain, and one of this other CTT, the flyer, I had actually went to a training thing on base while we were back in the States, and I met to meet my CTT flyer and to meet the crew that I was working with. And that was one thing I was really trying to do, was integrate myself into what was needed out of me being an analyst. And the CTT seemed really cool, but then we get out in debt, and it was a fucking nightmare. He would come into the space and yell at me and tell me that that I needed to do this and do that. And well, first off, I couldn't send anything. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I ended up figuring out that the CTT that was there before me, he wasn't doing things the right way. And so so I had to get a hold of the contractor and get things fixed. And then finally, after I think it was 2 weeks, I got all my accounts set up and to where I could I could actually do work. And so I am doing transferring data and doing analysis. And then the CTT told me that I needed to send stuff to this other guy. And I was like, no. And he's like, yes. I was like, no. I was like, do you have paperwork? I was like, this isn't mine to give away. I was like, because yes, I'm taking control of it. I'm not going to be the person to send something to somebody without any actual like request. This is raw data. I'm not sending that. I'm not going to get in trouble for doing it. And then they're like, oh, well, the guy before you was doing it. I was like, I don't fucking care. I don't care. I was like, you can go and get proper authorization because I'm not doing that. And then it just kept getting worse from there. Because then, because this guy kept asking for shit. And what this dude do? He would record it. And then what's he do? He does a 500 gigabyte recording. I can't send that. I cannot send that. So, he like, so I'm like trying to figure shit out. And, he goes and tells the OIC that I'm not doing what I need to be doing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he goes to say something. And I'm like, how would you even know this? And I'm finding out that this fucking guy is going and emailing my bosses behind my back and not saying anything to me, but then going and whispering in my OIC's ear. And what ended up coming up was there was just something was skewed. It was going to the wrong place. That was it. I was doing my work, you know, but this fucking douchebag wouldn't even come and talk to me. So then comes the 500 gigabyte thing. And they're like, why aren't you sending this? I was like, it's too big. I can't send it. And the guy's like, the other CTT is like, yes, you can. He's like, you don't know what you're talking about. This, that. And he's so fucking big headed that he doesn't understand anything. Like, I know what I'm doing. Like you don't. And I was like, 500 gigabytes. You are not supposed to do 500 gigabyte collects. You're just fucking lazy. And OIC comes in and then he asks me, he's like, are you even going to do anything here? Are you even doing your job here? Yes. OIC ends up saying stuff to me that I'm not doing my job. And I was, to say that I felt like insulted was, I felt really insulted because I was there all the fucking time, all the time. And so I ended up sending it. And then I crashed the system for 2 weeks. And I told them, I told you I couldn't do it. And they're like, oh, well, now we got to figure out another way around. They're like, you should be able to cut it on your system. And I was like, I can try, but he should be able to do it on his system, on the plane. So what they do, I have to try to do it on my system. So I start it, and the thing comes up, and it says it's gonna take hours to do this. I was like, all right, if I'm sitting here, you're gonna sit here right with me because you did this collect knowing damn well that you should have not done this long. He sees the time. He's like, let me go make some phone calls. Comes back. He's like, I can do it on the plane. I was like, oh my God, you could do, didn't I say that? You know who I'm talking about. He pissed me the fuck off. He, like, one time I was doing an analysis, and I do analysis on all the collects. That's my job, was to do analysis on all the collections, do a report, a quick report, send it out. And I had a question because he misidentified some stuff. And he comes and I go to ask him this question. He's like, I didn't tell you to do the analysis on that one. I was like, all right, well, I do the analysis on all of them. He's like, no, you don't. You do analysis on what I tell you to do. I was like, excuse me? I was like, no, I do the analysis on all of them. He's like, I'm your fucking boss. You're attached to the VQ1. You're going to do what the fuck I say for you to do. I was like, and me, which made him even more mad because I talk very calm. I was like, don't don't be raising your voice at me. That you are not going to talk to me like that. You are not my boss. Intel was my boss. I was like, no. And so it escalated from there. And I went and talked to my LPO, and I told my LPO what was happening. This is what my LPO said. You need to figure out how to talk to him. He's like, you need to get on one-on-one and talk to him. And I told my LPO, I have 3 times he's yelled at me, and I have talked calmly to him the whole time. The last time I was like, there was another second class in there that saw the whole entire thing. I am now afraid to get him alone, because if he's going to yell at me in front of everyone, what do you think he's going to do to me alone? My LPO said that he would not step in until I said something to him on my own. So I just bared it. And what ended up happening was Intel and OIC got wind of it. So they pull us in to the office to talk to us. This fucker. He's like, I didn't say any of that. I didn't do any of that. I didn't. And so then they go on to be like, this sounds like it's hearsay. And I was like, I have a witness. I was like, I can go get him. And they're like, no, that's okay. We're just going to leave it like this. Things need to change. Yeah, you guys are not allowed to talk to each other unless it's professional, blah, 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 all this other shit. When we get done, he messages me on Facebook to apologize because he says it's all his fault. He's like, I'm sorry. He did this multiple times. If you want to say like I was stressed to the fucking max, that deployment, not only that, I lost my other grandpa, my papa in the States. I lost my papa in the States. And right away, I didn't drink. Instead, the plane was down. I don't know if you remember why the plane was down for like ever. The plane was down, and I locked myself in my room, and I would go out, buy a bacon double cheeseburger from the MWR tent, and I would go back to my room. And every single time I went there, the guys at the beer garden, they would ask me, they're like, oh, you're going to come drink tonight? And I was like, no, I like explained, like, my papa died and stuff. And, they were really nice about it. But after like the 5th, 6th day, they're like, we poured you a beer. They're like, you need to come out. And I can honestly tell you, like, they are the ones that helped me. As weird as it sounds, like, because they're like getting me to drink alcohol, but they helped me get out of my isolation, because like with what was happening with CTT1 and then losing my papa and then all the not being believed, like not having anybody to help me, like it was a nightmare. And it was only getting worse because it ended up happening was like, I wasn't sleeping. I couldn't sleep. And I started taking melatonin because I just couldn't sleep. I was going 2-3 days with no sleep, and I just couldn't sleep. And then that's when I ended up making friends with VP10. I don't know if you remember that. I ended up making friends with them. And honestly, like PRC, I would talk to him randomly every once in a while in the smoke pit over by the flight wing. And then we started talking more. And honestly, he became a big outlet for me. And he really like helped me like open up and talk to people about things. And then obviously my friends, and I like, if I did not have them there, if I never reached out and ended up becoming friends with VP10, I don't know what I would have done, because they really they helped me so much, because VQ1 is so fucking toxic. Everybody was two-faced. No, all they wanted to do was fucking joke on each other. And you can only make jokes about one person so many times until just be fucking honest, be real. That's how you feel about them. I hated it. We could not talk about life events, talk about our futures, talk about anything, talk about real shit. It was always jokes, putting down everybody. I don't like that. I mean, obviously I told you, because eventually for our last 2 weeks, we ended up becoming roommates. And I remember going to, we went to the pool, and was it the pool or was it just the next?
What time?
Well, I went to the pool with you guys once. Oh yeah, it was the pool. I went to the pool with you guys once.
I can't remember. I know that I had gone up a few different times. I can't remember. Oh yeah, you did. I remember now. Yeah, because there was a group of us that had gone up.
Well, when you weren't there, they would talk shit about you. It really bothered me because I was like, here we are as a group, and they would just say stuff. And then I thought they were your friend. And then I honestly thought they were your friends. And then when we became, when I found out you were my roommate, I was freaking out because one of the guys told me that you said I was a bitch and you didn't like me. And so I don't like conflict. I do not like conflict. I try to avoid conflict. So what did I do? I went to ask the girls if they want to be roommates with you. And nobody wanted to be roommates with you because they said that they didn't like you and that they just tolerated you. And it really fucking pissed me off. It really made me mad. And then I think we were roommates for like, I think on the second day is when I finally was like, so I heard you call me a bitch. And I like talked to you about it. And we talked about it, like what people are supposed to do. Like if you have an issue with somebody, talk to them, especially when you got to like spend tons of time with them. And like, it really fucking made me so mad that like, how can you do that? How can you act like somebody's friend and then behind their backs just be that fucking shitty? Like I stopped talking to all of them. Like after that, well, I didn't really talk to them much anyways, but like any kind of communication I did have with them, especially after they did that to you, I didn't say anything to them. I could be cordial, but I'm not going to be a friend. If I know that you're going to do that to somebody else, I'm not going to be your friend. That's shitty as fuck.
Right.
And it gives a bad name to a lot of the females in the fucking Navy or the military in general. Like, why do that? You don't have to. Like, I guess I was raised by my dad that said, he's like, if you don't like somebody, you don't have to talk to them. You can be respectful and you can be nice, but you do not have to talk to them. You do not have to act like you're their friend. You don't have to do any of that. And so I guess maybe that's why I'm alone a lot of the time. I think that there's very few people I talk to here in Washington, but I don't like backstabbers. Don't be my friend because you need a friend. I want you to be my friend because you want to be my friend. And so like, it was like actually talking to you and to the fact that we're both from the same place, because I was like, how do we not have any mutual friends? Like we're from the same city.
We probably do. We just don't realize it yet, but
yeah.
You know.
But like, it was actually like nice talking to you, even though you'd be like, all right, I'm going to bed. And we just talk. But yeah, that deployment was, it was hard. It was very, very hard. And coming back, like before we came back, I was asking because I wasn't supposed to go back out on debt for a few months because I was supposed to go to Paycom next. And because we got extended because of COVID, because we were out there for 4.5 months instead of just the 3 months. I wanted to make sure that the schedule was still the same. And that fucking department head, when we were doing VTCs, I was asking her, I was like, I was just wondering if the schedule's still the same. And she's like, yeah, if it's been changed, you've been notified personally. I was like, all right, well, I just want to make sure because the last time I got screwed over on my eval because you guys said I wasn't home enough and I wasn't doing any collateral duties. And she's like, that's not why you got that eval. She's like, if you want to talk about that eval, we can talk about it offline. And she was just a huge fucking cunt. And I don't say that very often, but she is. So one of the first classes ended up messaging me after the VTC, and she told me what I was on the schedule for. And it really fucking pissed me off because they were planning on sending me back to Bahrain. not even a month later. So I was coming home for about a month, and they were going to send me right back out, even though I asked if I could just stay, if that's what they were going to do. But they lied, and they were going to bring me back, have somebody else go out there, and then have me go right back. And so I just went, like, coming back home, like, I went to go do my PHA, and I got flagged. I got flagged for depression, and I was told that that I needed to go talk to mental health. And so I made an appointment with mental health. And while I was waiting, I went and scheduled an appointment with another therapist that wasn't in mental health. And so when I came back, it was really hard because I was still dealing with a lot of paranoia. I would switch cars to go to the gym. I have a weird thing where when I get some places, I sit in my car for a while and I just sit there. I do it here too. I think it drives my dog crazy because he sees me and he gets really excited, but I have to sit there for a little while. And two, it's like a safety concern because I feel like, you know, then you can watch your surroundings and see if anybody followed you and stuff. And it wasn't getting better. Like, there was a guy that came up to talk to me when we were in Bahrain, and I freaked out because he knew where I worked and I'd never seen him before in my life. Like, I was like legit scared. And so I started seeing this one therapist at regular medical, and I ended up not liking her because she would miss my appointments, or she would call me like an hour late. And it's just like, all right, I have issues and you're not making me a priority. I don't like that. And so I ended up firing her, and I told her like I didn't want to talk to her anymore. But the one thing that I did not like was as soon as I had mentioned that I was going to mental health, my command was really quick to want to know if I'll be able to be deployed. So they're not supposed to do this, but they recommended me to SAIL. I didn't know what SAIL was at all. I was fucking oblivious to what SAIL was. They gave me a pamphlet. They're like, we recommended you to SAIL. We made an appointment with SAIL. And then my EXO made me an appointment with a psychiatrist, which they're also not supposed to do. So
question, did you tell them that you were going to mental health, or?
Yes. So
Okay.
I thought I didn't have to tell them, but I thought it would be like nice to go and I told the department head lady, fucking asshole. I went and told her that I was going to mental health. And this is what she told me. She's like, you should learn to compartmentalize stuff. She's like, I don't talk to anybody and I'm fine. You see me? She's like, you shouldn't have to go to talk to somebody like that. And it really pissed me off. And then she was really, really upset when they ended up finding out, because so I went, before I saw my psychiatrist, who was a fucking terror, but I went and talked to one of the doctors, and he's like, I don't know why you're here, because he's like, I'm not your doctor right now, and your command made you this an appointment, but I guess we're gonna just he's like, so according to this, they just want to know if you're gonna be able to deploy. And I was like, really? He's like, I was so pissed. That was the only thing they requested, was for me to be screened to see if I was gonna go on LIMDU.
So they didn't actually care about if you were gonna be okay. They just wanted to know if you could benefit them.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep. Because we're undermanned, and that's why they were having me go back-to-back deployments. And so what they had told me was to see if I could go on this deployment, and they promised I would be able to stay and get help after this deployment. Yeah. And so when I told my doctor about that, he's like, honestly, I don't really have a say because I'm not your doctor. I have no say in, I'm not your doctor. I'm not your therapist. I don't have any say. And so he's like, but what I'm going to suggest is I'm going to suggest you go on LIMDU. He's like, I think you really need to take care of yourself. You have a lot of traumas and stuff like that. So when I talked to my therapist, she's like, yeah, I'm going to suggest you go on LIMDU because we don't trust them. They're like, obviously, if they've done all this stuff to you already and you've only been here for what? Like, you've been deployed 10 and a half months out of the year. They're like, yeah, we don't trust them. And so so they put me on LIMDU. And they were pissed. She was really mad about it because now they had to find new bodies and they had to figure out. And the thing that made me mad was our deployments, they were having people take them as IAs and paying them more per diem than what we were getting paid for. Yeah. Yeah.
But they didn't do that for you?
Mm-mm. No, because in Bahrain, we would only get like $3 or whatever for per diem. But if you were taking it as an IA, you were getting the full amount of per diem. Yeah. And so that's why they pushed us to take the Bahrain ones so that they could give the Greece and Japan one to the IA people. Yeah. And so they didn't care. And so they ended up switching me out of my department and moving me into a different department. And so I got assigned a caseworker, and Anne was very, very nice. I miss her. But I was like, because as soon as you go on LIMDU, you're assigned a caseworker, a psychiatrist, and a therapist. Excuse me. I would talk to my caseworker all the time, like anything and everything. I would always talk to her. And I asked her, what does LIMDU really like fully entitle? And she's like, well, you can go wherever you want or whatever to any kind of LIMDU command, blah, 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 all this other shit. I didn't get a choice. They made it for me. I went to one of the divisions. I love my job. So it was great because I got to do my job. It was great to a point, which I'll further get into. So I did like that I could still do my job. I could still do analysis. I could still shine. I could still do what I love doing. And also I could still work with other sailors. But when I went to go see my psychiatrist, this is what he said. So why are you here? Why aren't you on deployment? Why are you on LIMDU? What, like, and he just
was
kept
this
asking
the same psychiatrist that your command sent you to, or is this a different one?
No, this is a different one. This is the one I fired. So he ends up asking me these questions. He asked me, do you have any random spurts of anger? I was like, no. Do you have any random spurts of crying? I was like, no. Then why are you here? It says your mom she was bipolar, and starts going through and reading all this stuff. And I start getting upset and I like start crying, and I get upset, and I'm like, do you think I asked for this? Do you think I asked to be put on LIMDU? I was like, do you think I asked to be messed up? Like, I got upset. I was crying. I was mad. And then he, like, immediately, we're going to give you a psych evaluation. I'm going to sign you up for that so we can make you an appointment for a psych evaluation. And then all of a sudden he was just calm and nice. He's like, because I told him, I was like, I feel like this is an interrogation. And he's like, I'm sorry, it wasn't supposed to seem like that. I was like, well, you made it seem like that. I was like, you made it seem as if this is my fault that I'm here. And so once I said all that, he completely changed. But immediately I went and talked to my caseworker. And she apologized on his behalf, but she says that he's even like that to her. And she's like that to everyone. And he just he's old school, you know, he's not used to asking people questions, or he's not used to listening to people, but just asking them questions and just having them answer straightforward. And I was like, that's not acceptable. I was like, that I don't care. That's not, I was like, he should be fired. If he can't talk to people like with respect and like in a good manner, I was like, he shouldn't be a doctor. He shouldn't. I was like, he should not be here. And so she just told me that she gave me kudos for standing up for myself. But when I went to go talk to the other psychiatrist so what they ended up doing was they gave me the MMPI-2. Do you know what that is?
No.
Let me look up what it stands for, because it actually stands for something.
Side note, it's interesting that you had that experience with that same doctor, because I know that I had a bad experience with the same doctor, and I can't imagine how many other people have. I know you said you've talked to people who have, but I think it goes to show so much about the military mental health care system, because they would rather have just a body standing in the place of the role for a psychiatrist than someone who's actually going to help people. Because other than giving me like medication that helped me, the guy didn't do anything for me. So, but meanwhile, we're paying someone who knows how much money to fill this position. Just to say, we have someone. Yeah.
But I mean, that's one, there's multiple reasons behind why I requested to like switch doctor, which I'll get more into. But like, he had no bedside manner. He wouldn't listen to you. He wouldn't ask you questions. He just it was just straight to the point, not like any, like, how are you feeling? You know, anything like that. And I guess anybody I've talked to, that's how he is with everyone. And that's not acceptable. When you're dealing with people that have mental instability, you should not be that harsh and to them at all. You shouldn't be making somebody cry. Like, I was crying, and I was like, I feel like he tricked me. I think I remember, I think I talked to you about that. I was like, I feel like I was tricked. I felt like he entrapped me into that, and he wanted me to have some kind of reaction. And that's what he got.
Hey guys, Rachel here. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And for those of you who listen every single week to these episodes, thank you so much for your support. It truly means the world to me and so many other people who come on this platform to share their stories and truly believe in making a difference in how the military is for service members today. So your listens, your shares, they really are making a difference. And I hope you tune in next week to part 5 to finish off the story. See you guys next week.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen in today. Each week, I'll be bringing you value in the mental health space and its direct impact on service members and veterans. If you feel you personally got value today from this episode, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a 5-star rating and review and share this to your audience. Until next time, remember, your story matters, your mental health matters, and your story doesn't end here.